A warning alarm suddenly echoes through the cockpit. An F-18 Super Hornet is hundreds of miles from the nearest airfield, and one of its critical systems has just failed. Turning back isn't an option. The pilot's only hope is an aircraft carrier, a floating runway that's constantly moving with the ocean. The jet races toward the deck at more than 150 miles per hour. In just a few seconds, the pilot must catch one of 4 steel arresting wires. Miss them all, and the aircraft has to go around immediately, if it's still capable of flying. Every move now matters. The landing signal officer is issuing rapid corrections. Deck crews are already in position. Emergency vehicles are standing by. There are no spectators here, only highly trained professionals preparing for a landing where even the smallest mistake can have serious consequences. So how do U.S. Navy pilots safely bring a damaged fighter jet onto one of the most dangerous runways on Earth? Let's find out. An emergency landing on an aircraft carrier is far more than a pilot bringing a jet back to the deck. It's a race against time involving hundreds of highly trained sailors, advanced technology, and split-second decisions where every action has to be perfect. Over the next few minutes, you'll see what really happens when a U.S. Navy fighter jet declares an emergency at sea, how the flight deck transforms within moments, why the landing signal officer becomes the pilot's most trusted guide, and how one steel cable can mean the difference between a successful recovery and the loss of a multi-million-dollar aircraft. Let's step inside one of the most demanding operations in modern military aviation. Unlike a commercial pilot, a U.S. Navy aviator can't simply divert to another airport when something goes wrong. Out in the open ocean, the nearest runway could be hundreds of miles away. That leaves only one option: a floating airfield that's constantly moving with the waves, changing direction with the wind, and operating in some of the most unpredictable conditions on Earth. Even under normal circumstances, landing on an aircraft carrier pushes both the pilot and the aircraft to their limits. The usable landing area is only a fraction of the length of a typical airport runway, leaving almost no room for error. Every approach must be flown with incredible precision while the ship rises and falls beneath the aircraft. Now at an emergency, a hydraulic failure, an engine warning, damaged landing gear, or rapidly decreasing fuel. Suddenly, the margin for error becomes even smaller. The pilot has only seconds to make critical decisions while controlling a high-performance fighter traveling at more than 150 miles per hour. At the same time, the crew on the flight deck must prepare for every possible outcome, from a safe recovery to a crash landing. There's another problem. Unlike a runway on land, an aircraft carrier never stands still. Wind speed, sea state, the ship's movement, and even the aircraft's weight can affect the landing. Every variable has to be calculated in real time because one small mistake could put dozens of lives and a multi-million-dollar aircraft at risk. So when an emergency call comes in, every person on board already knows exactly what needs to happen. And it all begins with a single radio transmission. The radio suddenly comes alive. "Carrier, this is Ghost 2-1. We've got a flight control malfunction. Requesting emergency recovery." Within seconds, the message spreads across the ship. Deep below the flight deck, maintenance teams stop what they're doing. On deck, yellow shirt aircraft directors begin clearing the landing area, while crash and rescue crews race toward their emergency positions. Fire trucks move into place. Medical personnel prepare for the worst, and every unnecessary aircraft is pushed clear of the landing zone. Inside the cockpit, the pilot quickly reviews the aircraft's warning displays. One failed system can often be managed, but several failures at once can rapidly turn a difficult landing into a life-threatening emergency. The aircraft is still flying, but every passing minute burns more fuel. Returning to a land base is no longer possible. The aircraft carrier is now the pilot's only chance. As the fighter begins descending toward the ship, the landing signal officer, better known as the LSO, steps onto the platform overlooking the angled flight deck. From this position, the LSO has one responsibility above all else: safely bringing the aircraft back aboard. Unlike air traffic controllers at a conventional airport, the LSO doesn't simply clear aircraft to land. Every approach is monitored second by second. Airspeed, altitude, glide path, lineup, and descent rate are constantly evaluated. If even one of those factors drifts outside safe limits, immediate corrections are transmitted to the pilot. Meanwhile, the carrier itself begins turning into the wind. This isn't by chance. By creating stronger wind over the flight deck, the ship helps the approaching fighter generate more lift, giving the pilot greater control during the final seconds before touchdown. From high above, the aircraft finally breaks through the clouds. For the first time, the pilot can clearly see the flight deck. It looks impossibly small, and in less than a minute, everything will depend on one perfectly executed approach. The fighter is now less than 5 miles from the carrier. Inside the cockpit, every instrument is being checked one final time. The pilot's heartbeat is rising, but years of training take over. Every movement is calm, deliberate, and precise. On the ship, the landing signal officer watches the approaching aircraft through specialized optical equipment. The radio remains quiet until the jet reaches the final approach. Then the instructions begin. You're a little high. Ease it down. Keep coming. Power, power. Each correction is delivered in seconds because every second counts. Helping the pilot is one of the carrier's most recognizable systems, the Fresnel lens optical landing system, better known as the ball. Mounted beside the flight deck, it projects a glowing amber light that instantly tells the pilot whether the aircraft is above, below, or exactly on the correct glide path. For naval aviators, keeping the ball centered isn't just good flying, it's essential. Losing sight of it, even briefly, can quickly turn a stable approach into a dangerous one. As the aircraft continues descending, another critical system comes into play. Hidden across the landing area are 4 heavy-duty steel arresting wires, stretched tightly across the deck. Trailing behind the fighter is a reinforced tailhook, designed for one purpose: to catch one of those cables the instant the wheels touch down. At more than 150 miles per hour, there is no gentle landing. Carrier pilots often describe it as a controlled impact. The moment the wheels hit the deck, the pilot immediately pushes both throttles to full military power. It may seem strange, but this is standard procedure. If the tailhook fails to catch a wire, a situation known as a bolter, the engines are already producing maximum thrust, giving the aircraft enough power to launch back into the air for another attempt. There is no time to hesitate. At the same moment, the arresting gear hidden beneath the flight deck prepares to absorb an enormous amount of energy. In less than 2 seconds, it must bring a fast-moving fighter weighing tens of thousands of pounds to a complete stop. Back on deck, every crew member knows their assignment. Yellow shirt directors stand ready to guide the aircraft after it stops. Red shirt crash and salvage teams wait beside emergency vehicles, prepared for fire, hydraulic leaks, or damaged landing gear. Purple shirt fuel specialists remain clear until the aircraft is declared safe, while green shirt technicians closely monitor the arresting gear to ensure it performs exactly as designed. Hundreds of people are now focused on a single aircraft, because in the next few seconds, there will be only 2 possible outcomes: a successful recovery, or an emergency that could change everything. The fighter is now less than a mile from the carrier. The ship cuts through the waves below while every eye on the flight deck is locked on the approaching aircraft. Inside the cockpit, there are no distractions anymore. Only the runway, only the ball, only the landing. The landing signal officer watches every movement with absolute focus. You're on center line. Hold it, little low, add power. Easy, keep it coming. The corrections are calm, but the urgency behind them is unmistakable. The aircraft crosses the stern of the carrier at nearly 150 miles per hour, descending only a few feet above the deck. For a brief moment, everything seems perfectly aligned. Then the ship rolls slightly with the ocean. The landing area shifts beneath the aircraft. The pilot makes an instant correction, carefully adjusting the throttle and flight controls to stay on the proper glide path. There is no room for overreacting. A movement that's too aggressive could be just as dangerous as not being correct at all. The main landing gear slams onto the deck. The reinforced tailhook drops behind the aircraft, reaching for one of the 4 arresting wires stretched across the flight deck. A split second later, clang, the hook catches the cable. The steel wire snaps tight with incredible force. For an instant, the fighter seems to fight against the cable as thousands of pounds of momentum are transferred into the arresting system hidden beneath the deck. The jet decelerates violently, from more than 150 miles per hour to a complete stop in just a few seconds. The pilot remains at full throttle until it's absolutely clear that the aircraft has stopped. Only then are the engines pulled back. Around the deck, the tension immediately gives way to action. Yellow shirt directors move toward the aircraft, signaling the pilot to remain in position. Red shirt emergency crews quickly inspect for fire, leaking fuel, damaged landing gear, or hydraulic fluid. Green shirt technicians examine the arresting cable, ensuring it absorbed the enormous load without damage and is ready for the next recovery. Within moments, the flight deck begins returning to its normal rhythm. But everyone knows how differently it could have ended. If the tailhook had skipped over every arresting wire, if the landing gear had collapsed, or if the damaged aircraft had become uncontrollable during those final seconds, the outcome could have been catastrophic. On an aircraft carrier, success is measured not by dramatic celebrations, but by another pilot safely walking away from the aircraft. The moment the aircraft comes to a stop, the mission isn't over. Within seconds, yellow shirt aircraft directors guide the pilot through a series of hand signals while the engines are carefully brought back to idle. Around the jet, crash and rescue teams perform a rapid inspection, searching for leaking fuel, hydraulic fluid, overheated brakes, or any sign of fire. If a mechanical failure caused the emergency, maintenance crews immediately begin documenting every detail. Every warning light, every system fault, and every action taken by the pilot is carefully recorded. Nothing is left to guesswork. Meanwhile, the pilot heads to a debriefing room, where flight data, radio communications, and the entire landing sequence are reviewed. The goal isn't to assign blame. It's to understand exactly what happened and ensure the same emergency can be handled even more effectively in the future. On an aircraft carrier, every emergency becomes another lesson. Every successful recovery helps improve procedures, strengthen teamwork, and prepare the crew for the next mission. An aircraft carrier may look like a massive floating fortress, but during an emergency landing, everything comes down to a few critical seconds. It's not just the pilot's skill that makes the difference. It's the coordination of hundreds of sailors, the precision of advanced technology, and years of relentless training that allow these recoveries to happen safely. From the landing signal officer making split-second corrections, to the arresting gear stopping a fast-moving fighter in just a few hundred feet, every system and every crew member has one purpose: to bring that aircraft home. It's one of the few places in the world where engineering, discipline, and human judgment must work together perfectly under extreme pressure. And when it all comes together, what looks impossible from the outside becomes another successful mission at sea. If you enjoyed this inside look at one of the most demanding operations in military aviation, make sure to subscribe to Carrier Command. Every week, we explore the technology, history, and real-world operations behind the world's most powerful aircraft carriers and naval aviation. If there's another aircraft carrier mission or military topic you'd like us to cover, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next mission.